Joining me in the studio is Jude Kelly, CBE, the award-winning founder and CEO of the WOW Foundation and former artistic director of London's South Bank Centre. The WOW Foundation is a charity that celebrates the achievements of women, girls and non-binary people and confronts global gender injustice through the WOW Festival, events and more. And welcome, Jude. Thank you so much. What was the genesis of the WOW Foundation?
Well, I suppose it was me, personally, in a sense, because there I was as the artistic director of the largest arts centre in Europe. And I looked back and thought, gosh, you know, my grandmother left school when she was 12. She had 14 children. This was in Liverpool. My mum and dad had 4 daughters. And then here am I, 3 generations later, with this incredible power, in a sense, and also the realisation of so many of my dreams as a theatre director, a producer, a commissioner, etc. But I realised that unless somebody had got me the vote, education, birth control, and the idea that women could have careers, then I wouldn't have that position. I realised that I actually was benefiting from people who'd put in so much hard labour on my behalf, and I wanted to carry on. And I looked at the empire of the South Bank Centre in a way, and all across the arts, across the world, and thought, largely, we're still telling the stories of men, male achievement, male valour, and we're not really understanding that unless you tell women's stories, that essentially women's rights are at loss, because you're not putting women into the centre of the universe and you're marginalising them in storytelling, and that has an effect on society.
You must have had big challenges on the way. What were they and how did you overcome them?
Well, you know, one challenge actually was very straightforward, is being small, blonde and northern and a girl, because people have views about all of those, about where you will position yourself, you know, what's appropriate for you. So one challenge is actually just not to identify with those poor aspirations, but to go past them. When you're going past them and people going, oh, gosh, you know, you've got big ideas, haven't you? It's almost a criticism. So getting rid of an anxiety about your own ambition, that is a challenge. And then, of course, people expect you to be a man when you turn up, because, you know, you're the boss and you're the director, et cetera, et cetera. And I found, and I don't know whether this was a good thing or not, I had to put my private life, my family life, I've got children, kind of almost like completely to one side. So I never presented myself as, if you like, 360 degrees woman. I was always like without all those attachments, and I regret that now, actually.
So there are now WOW festivals taking place in 30 locations across 6 continents. When did you kind of realise and become aware that WOW could really be a powerful movement for change?
Mm-hmm. Well, almost immediately, because thousands of women came to the first one in London. All right, that's a kind of global city. But immediately, women from around the world who'd heard about it or who were in London and saw it said, can we do this in Baltimore? Can we do this in Catherine, which is an Indigenous community in northwest Australia with 500 women, 500 Indigenous women who wanted to do WOW to kind of make connection with their white settler neighbours. Mm-hmm. Women in Bangladesh, women in Sri Lanka, women in Nepal, Turkey. I mean, it just happened. It was incredible. But as well, Exeter, Rotherham, you know. So I just thought, well, of course, naturally, people want a way to celebrate, but they also want a way to talk about tough stuff. And if you put those 2 things together, WOW is a very natural way of communities being able to do both of those things, which is necessary.
So much to talk about. Tell us about your role. Did you have a particular role model who inspired you? And how do you think female mentoring and leadership like yours can actually make a real difference to the next generation of women in the arts?
Yeah. I never had any female mentors until, I don't know, years and years later. I didn't look around me and see anybody who was doing what I wanted to do. And in fact, when I went to university to study drama, because I knew when I was 12 I wanted to direct, I was specifically told that there were no women directors. And they named 3 and said, yes, well, they're retired, dead, or, you know, sidelined. So it's not possible. In fact, they basically said to me, you can't be one. But the things that I do remember was, you know, when I was a little girl, there were 3 prime ministers in the world that were women. And that it made me think it's possible. But it also is that illusion that makes you think, therefore, job done. You know, if you've been a prime minister, that's it, isn't it? Everybody can. So I had images of women. I think that the first writer who I really identified with as this, like, frustration of a journey was Doris Lessing. She was really an amazing writer. You know, my dad with 4 daughters saying, you can do it, you can do whatever you want to do. never underestimate men. The absolute importance of being there to say that your girl, your wife, your partner, whatever, can succeed.
And what about mentorship? What about mentoring and leadership now? How important is it that you kind of pass it down again?
Mm-hmm. I think mentoring is really critical. I do mentor a lot of women, and of course, as a result, I learn a lot still. You know, I've got my own experience. I'm a white, I'm heterosexual, I'm cisgendered, I'm from the north of England, I'm not global. And so having lots of women around the world sort of rethinking ideas about equality is a mentor to me. Mm-hmm. But I also think that women get mentored, but that's not enough. You need to give women jobs. You know, very often mentoring is standing in for actually just saying, do you know what, do it. And I'm not talking about the glass cliff where women get given a job that's impossible and then they fail. I'm talking about, you know, trusting women just to learn from experience the way that men are given that chance to do. So I'm all for mentoring, I'm all for women role models, but I don't want that to stand in the way of women just setting out and doing their stuff.
Jude, it's absolutely fascinating to talk to you. Jude Kelly, thank you very much.
Pleasure.